The smoke curled up in slow motion, twisting in front of my face like it was mocking me. One cigarette, one silence, and a heart that had already stopped pretending. I watched the tiny orange light burn at the tip, the only glow in my dark apartment. 30 years old today. Happy birthday to me, not that anyone cared. The phone hadn't rung all morning, not a single message, not even a half-hearted emoji from my family group chat. I took another drag and let the smoke fill the empty room. My eyes fell on the photo frame beside the couch, me, my parents, and my younger sister, smiling on her graduation day. The picture looked perfect. The kind of family everyone wishes for. But reality? It was colder than the ashes falling from my cigarette. My mother had called last night, just before midnight. For a second, I thought maybe she'd remember, maybe she wanted to wish me. But no. She called to tell me that Mia, my sister, had gotten a surprise trip to Paris. Your father and I wanted to do something special for her, she said, her voice filled with excitement. I waited, just waited for her to say, and happy birthday, sweetheart. But those words never came. Instead, she said, she deserves it. She's the one who makes us proud. Then she hung up. Just like that. I stared at the phone long after the call ended, my throat dry, my heart numb. When I was younger, I believed love in a family was equal. I thought parents loved both children the same. But over time, I learned, sometimes love has favorites. Sometimes, it's performance-based. You become invisible the moment you stop fitting their definition of success. Mia was the golden child. The one who brought medals, perfect grades, and pictures for Facebook posts. And me? The quiet one who chose art, who wanted to write, who didn't have a big job title or a shiny car. To them, that meant failure. I used to laugh it off, pretend I didn't care. But when it's your birthday and even your mother forgets you exist, it hits differently. I got up, stubbed the cigarette in the ashtray, and looked around. Empty plates, half-finished coffee, unpaid bills scattered across the table. Life hadn't gone the way I planned, but I wasn't broken, not yet. Still, something about that morning cracked something deep inside me. I opened Instagram. The first thing that popped up was Mia's story, her smiling at the airport, luggage in hand, mom and dad standing proudly beside her. The caption said, "Paris, here I come. Blessed to have the best parents in the world." My hand trembled as I watched it on loop. I wanted to be happy for her. But all I felt was forgotten. I scrolled down, and there it was, Dad's post. So proud of our daughter. She makes us shine. Not our daughters. Just her. It wasn't even subtle anymore. I sat there, staring at that post until my eyes burned. Maybe I should have called them. Maybe I should have reminded them that today was my day. But no, I wanted to see how far their silence would go. Noon came. Then evening. Still nothing. I didn't cry. Not yet. I'd spent years learning how to hold my pain quietly, like a secret. That's what you do when no one listens anyway. I walked out onto the balcony. The city buzzed below, people laughing, cars honking, the world moving like it always does. I leaned against the railing and looked up at the gray sky. Funny how birthdays used to feel magical, cake, candles, wishes. Now, they just feel like reminders. Reminders of how far you've drifted from the people you thought would never leave. I took a deep breath and lit another cigarette. The flame flickered against the wind, stubborn like me. I thought about all the times I tried to earn their pride, the jobs I hated, the smiles I faked, the apologies I made even when I wasn't wrong. But nothing was ever enough. They always wanted Mia's version of success. Not mine. A message popped on my screen. My best friend, Noah, "Hey, man, happy birthday. You doing anything tonight?" For a second, that simple text felt like sunlight through cracks. Someone remembered. I typed back, "Thanks, bro." Just chilling. I didn't tell him that chilling meant sitting alone in an apartment that felt smaller with every passing hour. He replied, "Come out, let's grab a drink." I thought about it, but then looked at my phone again, no missed calls, no family messages. I wanted to stay and see if maybe, just maybe, they'd call. Hope is cruel like that, it keeps you waiting for people who already left in their hearts. By 8 p.m., the silence turned heavy. I poured myself a drink and sat back on the couch. The second glass hit harder than I expected. My mind started replaying old birthdays, Mom baking a cake, Dad laughing, Mia hugging me tight. That warmth wasn't fake back then. What changed? When did love start needing proof? I tried to remember the last time Dad said he was proud of me. I couldn't. Maybe it was when I was 10, after my school play. After that, I guess I stopped being impressive. The third cigarette of the night burned slower. I thought about calling them one last time, maybe pretending to be casual, just to hear their voices. But pride stopped me. I told myself I didn't care. But deep down, I did. That's the worst part about being forgotten, you still remember. You still wait. Even when you know the answer. The doorbell rang suddenly, breaking the silence. My heart jumped. For a second, I thought, no, hoped, maybe they surprised me. Maybe it was them. I rushed to the door and opened it. It wasn't them. It was the delivery guy holding a package. "Happy birthday," he said, reading the label. Must be from someone special. I smiled weakly and took it. There was no sender's name, just a small white box tied with blue ribbon. Inside was a lighter. A silver one. Engraved on it were the words, "Keep your fire." My chest tightened. No note, no explanation. Just that message. And somehow, it meant everything. I sat there turning the lighter in my hand, wondering who sent it. Maybe Noah? Maybe no one I knew. Maybe life was trying to tell me something. I didn't know what, not yet. But that moment, holding that lighter, I felt something flicker inside. Not anger, not sadness, something else. Something that whispered, "This story isn't over yet." The lighter rested on my palm, cool and heavy, as if it carried a message I wasn't ready to hear. Keep your fire. Those 3 words repeated in my head like a heartbeat. Maybe it meant don't let the world turn you cold. Maybe it meant stop letting their silence define you. I placed it on the table and leaned back, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slowly, pushing around the same stale air I'd been breathing all day. I thought about how strange it is, how the smallest gesture can hit harder than 1,000 apologies. That tiny silver lighter said what my family never could, "You matter." The next morning, the city was wrapped in fog. I hadn't slept much, just drifted between old memories and half-dreams. When I finally got up, the apartment felt different. Still quiet, still messy, but lighter somehow. I made coffee, stared out the window, and thought about my sister somewhere above the clouds, maybe taking pictures for her story, probably laughing. For a long time, I used to envy her. But that morning, all I felt was distance, like we lived in 2 separate worlds built by the same parents. One soaked in praise, the other in silence. My phone buzzed again. A message from Mom. My chest tightened before I even opened it. "Hey sweetheart, can you send Mia her passport copy? We left it in the drawer." No good morning. No how are you. No belated happy birthday. Just another request, another reminder that I existed only for convenience. I didn't reply. I deleted the message instead. For once, I didn't want to be useful. I wanted to be seen. I stepped outside to clear my head. The air smelled like rain and exhaust, the kind of morning where the city feels half awake. I walked with no direction, passing coffee shops filled with laughter, couples sharing breakfast, people heading somewhere. Everyone seemed to have a place. I didn't. The loneliness hit sharper than usual. I pulled out a cigarette, lit it with the new lighter, and watched the flame catch. Keep your fire. The words glowed brighter in my mind. I exhaled slowly, letting the smoke disappear into the mist. Maybe that was the point, some things fade, but the fire stays. Halfway down the block, I saw a small art gallery. The sign outside said Open Exhibition, Local Artists. I almost walked past it, but something made me stop. I hadn't painted in years. My old canvases were stacked in a corner of my apartment, collecting dust like forgotten dreams. Curiosity pulled me inside. The place smelled of oil paint and wood polish. Paintings hung on white walls, each telling its own quiet story. There weren't many people, just a few wandering souls like me. And then I saw it, a woman sitting behind a desk, smiling as if she knew me already. "You're an artist?" she asked, noticing the way I was studying the pieces. I laughed softly. "Used to be," I said. "Maybe still am." She handed me a flyer. "We're taking entries for next month's showcase. Anyone can submit." I took it, half-heartedly at first. But as I walked home, that small piece of paper felt heavier than I expected. Maybe this was the universe's way of nudging me. Maybe the lighter wasn't from a person, it was a sign. The fire I'd lost wasn't gone, it was just buried under years of trying to be someone else's version of worthy. Back home, I stood in front of my closet, pulling out old canvases one by one. Dust rose in thin clouds. Each painting told a chapter of who I was before I started dimming my light to please them. There was one that I'd never finished, a girl standing in the rain, holding a candle that refused to go out. I set it on the easel. The brush felt strange in my hand at first, but familiar too. As colors began to spread across the canvas, something inside me loosened. The noise in my head quieted. Hours passed without me noticing. For the first time in years, I felt alive. That night, as I sat looking at the half-finished painting, I wondered if I should tell them. Should I send a photo? Should I reach out? But then I remembered the way Dad said, "She's the one who makes us proud." I realized I didn't need to chase that anymore. Their pride was a moving target, and I was done running. I didn't hate them, I just didn't need their validation to exist. Still, a part of me wished things were different. You can forgive the pain, but the ache of being forgotten lingers. Days passed. I worked, painted, ate, slept. No calls, no texts from them. Mia posted pictures from Paris's cafes, museums, the Eiffel Tower at night. Each photo sparkled with the life they'd chosen for her. I looked at them without bitterness this time. Let her have that world. I was building mine. The lighter stayed beside my paints, always within reach, like a reminder of the promise I'd made to myself. Then, out of nowhere, Dad called. I stared at the screen, frozen. For a second, I considered not answering. But curiosity won. "Hey, Dad," I said quietly. "Oh, finally. You're alive," he laughed. I forced a smile he couldn't see. "Yeah, been busy." He continued, "Listen, your sister's having some trouble with her apartment deposit in Paris. Can you transfer her some money? We'll pay you back next month." My throat tightened. "No, how was your birthday?" "No, we missed you." Just another request. Another transaction. I wanted to say no. I wanted to scream. But instead, I said, "Sure, Dad. I'll send it." Because some habits die slowly. After the call, I sat in silence, anger simmering under my ribs. I didn't cry this time. I just lit another cigarette and watched the smoke drift toward the ceiling. Maybe family wasn't about blood, maybe it was about who actually shows up when it matters. That thought hurt, but it also freed me. I grabbed my wallet, set aside the money, and promised myself it would be the last time I tried to buy their love with silence. Later that night, I walked to the small cafe near my apartment. It was quiet, dimly lit, the kind of place where no one asks questions. The owner, an old man with kind eyes, nodded as I sat down. "Rough day?" he asked. I smiled faintly. "Rough life," I said. He chuckled, poured me coffee, and said, "You look like someone who's about to start over." Maybe he was right. Maybe that's what this whole thing was leading to, a restart. The first spark of a new chapter. I went home and stood in front of my painting again. The candlelight in the girl's hand glowed brighter than before. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. I realized that's all I ever wanted, to be real, even if no one clapped for it. I cleaned my brushes, turned off the lights, and for the first time in a long while, slept without waiting for a message that would never come. Morning light spilled through the blinds, soft and golden, cutting across the room like quiet forgiveness. The half-finished painting glowed in the corner, the girl in the rain now almost complete. Her candle burned bright, brighter than I'd planned. I took it as a sign. I hadn't realized until that moment how much I'd poured myself into that image. She wasn't just a figure, she was me, standing against the storm, holding on to a flicker of hope when everything else had gone dark. The lighter sat beside the canvas, its silver edges catching the sunlight. "Keep your fire." The words felt truer than ever. I brewed coffee and checked my phone. Still nothing from them. No thank you for the money I sent. No how are you holding up. Just the same void. I smiled bitterly. Maybe I was finally done waiting. I opened my laptop and filled out the submission form for the gallery's open exhibition. When it asked for a title, I hesitated. Then typed, "The Girl Who Wasn't Chosen." It felt right. Painfully right. I attached the photo of my painting, clicked send, and leaned back. My heart didn't race. It didn't break either. It just breathed. Weeks passed. Life moved quietly, but for once, the quiet didn't scare me. I painted more, each piece pulling something raw out of me. Every brushstroke was a confession. Every canvas, a mirror. I stopped checking my family's group chat. I stopped waiting for validation that was never coming. The pain was still there, sure, wounds don't heal overnight. But something inside had shifted. I started seeing value not in being loved, but in being me. One evening, I received an email from the gallery. "Your work has been selected for display." Congratulations. I read it twice, then 3 times, before I finally let out a shaky laugh. Not because I couldn't believe it, but because for the first time, someone saw me for who I was, not who I wasn't. It wasn't about fame or revenge, it was about recognition, quiet, honest recognition that I was still here, still creating, still burning. The day of the exhibition arrived. I stood in front of my painting, surrounded by strangers who paused to look, some even taking photos. A woman came up to me, tears glistening in her eyes. "This one," she said softly, pointing to the girl with the candle, "it feels like she's been waiting for someone who never came, but she kept her light anyway." My throat tightened. "That's exactly what it means," I whispered. She smiled. "Then you've made something powerful." I watched her walk away, and in that moment, I realized I didn't need my family to be proud of me anymore. Because strangers were finding themselves in my story. And maybe that was the kind of pride that mattered most. Later that night, when the exhibition ended, I walked home under the streetlights, my hands still trembling from everything that had happened. I sat on my balcony, lit a cigarette with that same silver lighter, and stared at the city. The flame flickered against the wind, but it didn't go out. Neither did I. I thought about calling them again, to tell them what I'd achieved, to hear that maybe they were proud. But then I stopped. Because I knew that even if they never said it, I was proud of me. That was enough. Days later, Mom finally called. Her voice was gentle but hesitant. "We saw your post," she said. "Congratulations on your art thing. Mia told us." I smiled faintly. "Thanks, Mom." There was a pause. Then she added, "You know, your father and I, we didn't mean to forget your birthday. Things were just hectic with Mia's trip and all." Her words trailed off. Excuses. I didn't interrupt. I just let her talk. "Anyway," she said after a long silence, "we're proud of you too." That sentence, those 5 words, came years too late. But somehow, I didn't crave them anymore. "Thanks, Mom," I said softly. "That means a lot." We said goodbye, and when the call ended, I didn't feel anger or relief, just peace. Because I finally understood, some people love you the only way they know how, even if it's imperfect. And some wounds aren't meant to close, they're meant to remind you how strong you became surviving them. That night, I returned to my easel. The painting of the girl was done now, her candle burning steady. I started a new one, this time, a sunrise breaking through clouds. Brighter, warmer, fearless. It wasn't about pain anymore, it was about what came after it. I painted until dawn, each stroke lighter than the last. When morning came, I stepped onto the balcony again. The cigarette between my fingers burned softly, the city slowly waking up below. I thought about my sister, my parents, all the things I couldn't change. Then I thought about the life I could still create. That's when I realized something simple but profound. Maybe being ignored was the best gift they could have given me. Because in their silence, I found my own voice. I took one last drag, exhaled into the golden morning light, and smiled. "Here's to 30, I whispered to myself. The year I finally learned that being proud doesn't always mean being praised. The lighter clicked shut, the smoke faded, and somewhere deep inside, I felt something spark again, not just a flame, but a fire that would never go out.